Ooh. And I'm going to pause the recording until we get quorum. We're back recording.
Okay, so that's quorum. Let's see, it being 6 o'clock, a little thereafter, June 2nd, 2022, I'll call to order the special meeting of the Brockton Conservation Commission to discuss a wetlands ordinance. We are holding this meeting remotely in conformance with the emergency order issued by the governor. If there are any members of the public who wish to be heard, they can raise their hand. This is not a hearing at this point, so the chair may choose not to recognize members of the public, but if you do want to be heard and you are participating, you raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand button or star 9 on your phone. Okay.
No attendees.
Yeah, I just see 5. So. All right, Megan, where did we leave off?
Okay, so at our last meeting, we ran through the draft and discussed a few sections and discussed a few changes the commission would like to see. So I can just run through them because there weren't that many. One sort of reoccurring change was changing reference to the 25-foot riverfront to a 200-foot riverfront. So everywhere that references riverfront now says 200 feet. In the case of enforcement under the fines, I changed it to just a reference to a fine of not more than $300 for an offense. So no delineation between like first, second, or third. Is just a fine of up to 300 for an offense. And then finally, the big thing was also under the enforcement section was adding a sort of layout of procedure for enforcement under the commission to sort of highlight an educational component or a sort of time for communication. So I can actually just read that right now because it's only a short paragraph. So this is under enforcement. This is subsection E, and it says, in the case of a violation occurring in the buffer zone, the commissions shall issue a written letter to the violator and property owner requiring attendance at a commission meeting to discuss the violation and steps deemed necessary by the commission to remedy the violation. In the case of a continuing or repeated violation and/or a violation that has altered a resource area, the commission shall issue an enforcement order requiring mitigation, restoration, and/or any such steps deemed necessary to remedy the violation. In the case of non-compliance with an issued enforcement order, the commission may proceed with enforcement action under criminal prosecution, civil action, and/or non-criminal disposition. And as we discussed, the non-criminal disposition refers to that ticketing procedure that is currently unavailable under the act itself.
That sounds good to me. Anybody else have any comments?
I agree. It covers what we discussed.
To add a ticketing portion for non-criminal disposition.
Yes, so the non-criminal disposition, it's the language under subsection H of the enforcement section. So it outlines the procedure, which is set forth in Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 21D. So it's a sort of a general ticketing procedure in the state that the commission could make use of if implemented through this ordinance.
And would that include a fine or? I'm not sure.
Yes, so as the,
I know we talked about going before the city council in the case of non-conformance. Is that part of this also, or is that separate?
so there's different options. So basically, the non-criminal disposition or the ticketing procedure, as it's set up in the language, we've written that the conservation agent and any other appointment made by city council shall be the enforcement authority hereunder. So basically it would, as it's written here, it would be the agent, and then should city council appoint any other position, they would be the one who would follow the procedure under MGL 4021D, which involves, filing something with the court, and then it follows through with that. And again, we have it set up that the fine would be not more than $300 for an offense. And then that's all under the non-criminal disposition. And again, that's just one option that allows for the commission to take. The commissions could still pursue civil or criminal action via the city solicitor, which is the procedure that technically exists under the Wetlands Protection Act. So that would still be an option with the ordinance, is that, the city solicitor's office could facilitate a complaint for a violation of the ordinance.
Right, and that's in that section F just above that. And so the process for that is that a request needs to be made from the commission to the mayor or city council to take the action that the commission is seeking.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe that's because they're the authority that would engage the city solicitor or other counsel to do that, and also the funding source.
Okay, it looks like I'm adding Ruby on. It looks like she should be here in a moment. Okay, yes. And again, most of this language, again, if you refer to the various comments, most of this language is taken from other municipalities. So they're already operating under this language in their own ordinances or bylaws.
So is the goal tonight to confirm these changes and then to discuss the next steps to get it to approval? Because I believe it goes
Yes.
to the mayor and then to the city council.
Generally speaking, that's my understanding of how an item is added to the council's agenda. So it would go through the mayor's office first, which is why we've been in contact with Brady. It's the mayor's, policy liaison. So she's been sort of setting the groundwork for, getting it to the next step when we feel that all parties are comfortable with moving ahead.
Mhm.
You will also need a counselor to sign it in.
Sign it in to the mayors.
Once the mayor moves it forward,
Okay. So,
a city councilor has to actually sign the ordinance in. So somebody will have to reach out at some time in the future to a counselor too.
right. Do we know who, I'm trying to think, the last time we did this, where the support was coming from? I want to say Tim Cruz, but he's no longer a counselor.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with how far, things may have proceeded in previous iterations, at least in the communications for this round that I've had with Brady when she's been sort of, feeling things out. The counselor she mentioned was Counselor Nicastro.
Yeah,
And I know Counselor Nicastro has, within the past couple months, requested to see the draft as well. So that's at least the interest that I've heard of so far.
Yeah, it won't make a difference because it could be any of the 11,
mhm.
because you're not in a particular ward, so you're just looking for a counselor to
Well,
sign.
I'm just thinking too, with, I mean, we want
Or more than one counselor.
positive risk. Right, because I'm thinking, the more, yes, if we can have more than one counselor, it probably makes sense to get several in support of it, because you want to build that support before it gets there. And make sure that, you know, they all have kind of the political will to move it forward.
I think if we open it up to every counselor, then we could get backlog though. Because they're all
Yes,
gonna wanna
yeah,
do-
I'm thinking just,
Yeah,
and again, I'm trying to think of,
I wonder if Tom, I mean, I don't know how well I sit with the BCA with Tom. I think he would actually be very much in favor of something like this. Oh God.
it's not Tom
Ward
Moynihan.
Ward 1,
Tom Minicello.
Oh, Tom Minicello?
Mhm.
Tom Minicello.
Do you know?
I mean, I could mention it to him. I feel like he might actually be in good support of it. I see him, you know, like I said, at the BCA board of directors.
Yeah,
But
that's-
what are your thoughts? Stephanie, you have a lot more history here. I'm still new to Brockton, but I don't know what your thoughts are on his position.
I don't know Tom, so I
Okay.
think if you, it always helps to have some connection with the
Okay.
counselor to even broach the subject, so.
And does anyone have a feeling about Shirley Azak? Because I also know her, but I know she's running for state. She's changing her position, so I didn't know if that would be, if it'd be just better to get Tom and whoever Brady suggests,
I think Tom would be a
a
good,
good one.
yeah,
All right,
I'm actually helping Shirley Azak with her
okay.
campaign. And I know Tom Minicello very well too. And I know Jack Lally very well too.
Oh, yeah, so,
oh, Jack would probably support it, would be,
I mean,
Well,
Jack is
sure.
council president right now, so if you got it in
Mhm.
during his tenure,
yeah,
but any of those or all of those could,
I think it'll be
Sign.
good if we got more than one, like Stephanie said. I think that's good to have a couple in support of it.
yep. All right, I need to,
But this is after the mayor reviews it, correct? So.
after the mayor and the law office review it.
Okay, okay,
yeah, but it doesn't hurt to let them know it's coming too. that-
yes. So I can touch base, Megan, when you give me the go ahead, I think that's the best way. When you give us the go ahead, I think I can reach out, and Peggy, since you know Shirley and working closely with her, maybe.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think against, once the commission is, you know, comfortable calling this the draft, again, Brady in the mayor's office has seen this draft that we have right now. Counselor Nicastro, I believe, has this draft that we have right now. And then I recently met with the law department on enforcement, but we also briefly discussed the ordinance. So law department also has this current draft as well. So again, going in, certainly there could still be changes made, you know, if anyone has any suggestions tonight, but again, once the commission's comfortable moving forward, it's, you know, some people have already been notified, and I think we can continue to update, you know, that we're moving forward on this draft.
And keep in mind that there'll be an ordinance committee hearing on this separately, and council does have final say, so they can make any changes.
One other question, just, I know we threw this out there earlier in the beginning of the process. When is it appropriate to establish like the word to the Brocktonians, to the people? Because is that part of the plan when we take this forward? Because I feel like there could be some bounce back when people push back saying, okay, how are people going to be notified of this ordinance? This is new to Brockton. When is it appropriate to introduce the plans that we have as a commission to do that part of it?
Right, so I mean, technically, I know, I don't believe we have anyone listening in right now, but technically we've had 2 public meetings, you know, as a commission. Certainly, I don't see anything preventing the commission from, you know, hosting another, you know, public meeting that's geared more towards public presentation. And then technically, any of the hearings by either the full council or the ordinance committee of the council are public meetings as well.
Okay.
So technically, you know, anyone who reads that agenda item and attends would be attending, you know, the council's hearing on the ordinance language and so on.
Yeah, I think it would, that's a good question. Of course, you know, working in Easton, we deal with the town meeting form of government, and knowing what the public, because that's the voting body, whoever shows up, the residents that show up.
Yeah.
So you could get resistance or support depending on whether you had good public outreach or not. So I think the question there would be if we thought any of the counselors or several of the counselors, enough to move the vote in a negative direction, were against it. And yet we thought that within their ward, there were people who felt the protecting the wetlands was particularly important. You'd want to try to get their support and have them influence their counselor.
Yeah, as long as you remember, the vote for this is with the city council.
Right,
That's,
it's not the public.
it's not the public, it's the 11 councilors.
Right, right. So again, if you had broad support from the counselors, you might take advantage of that. But if we thought there were counselors that weren't on board, but knew their constituents had concerns, you know, when they see development that's coming in and not, I'm not like people who are just against development, but concerned about, you know, whether wetland resources are being filled or not. And all the values that they perform being degraded. All right, so
Can I just ask one question? So when we approach the counselors with our draft, and what is it that we're actually asking them? Just for their support for the draft as it is right now, and how they feel about wetlands?
no, I think what we want to do is at this point, and I mean, we want to make this a final draft, and then it's ready to move to the mayor's office. And again, understanding the process that if the mayor approves it and wants to move it forward, as Pam was pointing out, you need a member of the council to sign it in for the council to consider. So building that support, one, after we forward it to the mayor. You know, just again, people reaching out to ask for that counselor support to get it signed in.
I mean, we're in and out of our office.
I'm
Maybe
sorry.
the councilors are in and out of the office at various times, so, you know, we can, once everything is completed with the mayor, we can just kind of like begin to pave the road.
So here's a, I wonder if this is worth doing. If we agree on a final draft, could we hold a public meeting to just go through it one last time and vote to adopt it, to move forward? And invite counselors to that meeting?
I think that's probably something that gets run by Brady.
Because it has to pass
There's
through.
nothing
legal.
preventing us from doing that. But I want to be politically
Yeah,
sensitive.
Yeah, and I think Pam's referring to mostly with the timeline between, you know, because it's unofficially in the mayor's office, but of course the mayor hasn't taken that step. So it's the question of, you know, does the commission hold a meeting and invite counselor input before, you know, the mayor has taken his step, or vice versa, and that consideration.
Mhm.
yeah, I think that could be irritating to him. I don't know. Plus, he said they have legal counsel, right? So the mayor's office gets it and that runs through legal first.
Through
Because
law, yes.
yeah, so that might be a good idea that we let it run.
because
through
there
that
might be
first.
something that the law department sees
Yeah,
when they look at it that,
and then after we hear back, then we can go ahead and open it up to them maybe.
when the council goes on summer session.
Yeah, and then they're up for election, so. So,
Mm.
It's getting to that.
yeah.
I don't think this will be something they'll run on, so we need to be very sensitive to that. I'm the one who's. Mm. All right, so again, where are we at right now?
I read through the draft. I thought everything looked good to me with my knowledge of what I have. Nothing stood out. I thought it got all the points that we discussed before.
Yeah.
That's where I was on it.
Good, I agree. I thought we were in pretty good shape before, and these were the things, so. Does anyone disagree?
No,
Need more time to look at it? Ruby?
No, I've thoroughly gone over it myself. I agree. I think the last meeting we had, we talked about everything we're covering now in regards to also the feedback from the city council and working with Brady. So I think it's just running it through its proper course for us to get the end result that we're looking for. I think we're in that space at this point.
Great. Do we need a motion to accept this as the final draft?
I mean, I mean, it's easy for me to convey to everyone else that this is the commission's draft.
If we vote on it?
Mhm, yes.
Yes, I don't think you can ever fail by voting on something. So I would entertain a motion to accept this as our final draft and to take it to the next step.
I second the motion.
All right, we have two. All in favor, Danielson, aye.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Declare
Wonderful, thank you so much. All right, I'm going to say goodnight so I can ride home.
aye.
Okay.
Night.
Good night.
I'm so envious of you. Have a good night.
Oh, wait a minute, we didn't, why don't we put this on the agenda? Ruby, we understand that for the next couple months, I think, you getting to meetings at 6 o'clock is going to be difficult.
Yes, until we're having a lot of staffing issues at my current employer, and the person that handles the overseas accounts in particular is not going to be returning due to some serious medical issues. So I've been handed that responsibility, and the calls have been going just late, and I don't know what else to do about it. That's why I have to, I take them on my cell phone in the car. I'm constantly on calls. I literally hate the phone at this stage of my life right now. So, so it's just for a couple of weeks, but I know she's been interviewing. So I'm hoping that the transition is sooner rather than later. But for now, for the next couple of weeks, I will be, or month, or however long it takes them to onboard somebody, I'll be managing all the overseas stuff. So, I gave them a standard cutoff, and according to the time over in China and a couple of other places, 6:30 Eastern, our time is my cutoff for them, whatever their time zone is at that moment.
Okay, so do we want to consider it tonight or wait till the next meeting? But I want a general sense of whether moving the meeting to 6:30. We used to meet at 6:30. I think we actually met at 7 o'clock.
Seven,
Yeah.
Started
seven.
the mission
Oh,
and then
okay.
went to 6:30 and then went to 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Oh,
Um,
okay.
At 7 o'clock to me is really too late because our meetings have been going long.
Right.
But how do people?
That's why
feel
they were
about-
moved to 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do people feel about 6:30? I mean, it works. It actually works better for me because I'm usually running late. I'm usually like just flying in the door at home.
6:30 works better for me to get back from work because it's hard to do 6.
Okay. Megan, do you want to check in with Joyce?
Yes, I can.
And I think
check
that's
in.
it, right? It's.
Yep, it's 5 right now.
No, that will be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it is 5.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what I keep doing? I just did this in the last meeting I was at. I see myself and I count myself as a different person.
Oh, no.
Like, what? We barely had quorum in the last meeting and I'm like, oh yeah, no, we have because all those people plus me. One of those people is me. All right,
Awesome.
I'm done.
Right.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
night.
All right, you
home.
guys have a safe ride home,
Bye.
Steph.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.